For weeks now, Israelis have been protesting against Netanyahu's judicial reforms. In the end, cornered Netanyahu took a decision to delay these reforms. Now what will happen next? Will he read the room? Or is it just a step to tone down the public anger? Let's take a look.
Israel is going through unprecedented times. Its longest-serving prime minister, who is leading the country's most far-right coalition, stands against the tide of public opinion. Last week, Israel saw historic protests. A day of strikes that brought the country to a standstill. Pressure strong enough to push Netanyahu into a corner, forcing him to delay the controversial judicial reforms. Addressing the nation on a day suffused with tensions, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu invoked a biblical story. He spoke of the judgment of Solomon, where the king had to rule between two women, both claiming to be the mother of a child. Solomon ordered that the child be cut in two, and the woman who protested the verdict was determined to be the real mother.
Israeli citizens, I am not ready to tear the people apart. For 3 months I read over and over again the conversations, and I also said that I would turn over every stone to reach a solution, because we remember that we are not facing enemies. We stand in front of brothers, and I say here and now, there must not be a civil war.
Netanyahu spoke against a civil war in an attempt to divert people's attention from the fact that it was his own measures to clip the wings of the judiciary that brought Israel to the brink of one. The Prime Minister has agreed to delay the judicial reform, but this is only until the next parliament session. Reports are that coalition partner Ben Gvir gave the green light for this. Before concluding, Netanyahu said that the reform will be achieved through dialogue next time. This is not the kind of delay expected by the critics. The speech, which was expected to calm the nation, did not have the desired effect. While a revolt within the ranks of Netanyahu's supporters might have aborted, the protesting public remains on the streets. For the unversed, the proposal made by the Israeli government seeks to curb the judiciary's role in the making of public policy. The bill seeks to limit the Supreme Court's power to exercise the judicial review and grant the government control over judicial appointments by limiting the authority of legal advisors. In a nutshell, if this judicial overhaul or reform, as it is called, gets adopted, it would grant the Knesset the power to override the Israeli Supreme Court's decisions. Opposition to the judicial overhaul is not only from within Israel, but from important world capitals. The new chief of Human Rights Watch has accused the Netanyahu government of being on a rampage against rights.
Right now, with the current state of the Israeli government and the attacks on the judiciary in particular, we see that this is not a human rights compliant government. This is a government that's actually on a rampage against human rights domestically against its own people in Israel, and they are pushing back.
On the international stage, Israel's ties with the United States, its strongest ally, was put to the test. Netanyahu tried to smooth over a very public split with President Biden, while Washington quickly toned down its stance on the Israeli crisis.
We obviously urge Israeli leaders to come up with a compromise as soon as possible, and the president's comments yesterday about walking away from it are perfectly consistent with finding a compromise that that, again, preserves checks and balances in Israel.
Analysts and observers say that Netanyahu has limited options. He can either side with coalition and aggravate the divide within the country, or call off the reform and risk collapse of his government. Another option, one that he might prefer, may be available. If negotiators reached a moderated judicial overhaul plan bill during the Knesset's recess, a reform proposal that is acceptable to all parties. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.